Good afternoon, I'm Giovanni Dennis with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're joining us online at onespotmedia.com. The police are reporting that 6 homeless persons have been found dead in 2 police divisions in the corporate area. 3 of the men were found on Hanover Street in the Kingston Central Police Division, while a 4th man was found in the Kingston Western Police Division. Now, 2 other homeless persons, were found injured on Lane Plaza in Halfway Tree. Another was found on Derrimore Road. Now, both are in the St. Andrews Central Police Division. Now, some of the bodies found had chop wounds. The police are still investigating. 4 of the 6 men shot and injured in Denhamtown, Kingston last night have been treated and released from hospital. The other men have been admitted. The shooting occurred on Racecourse Lane, close to the Zone of Special Operations checkpoint. Now, it's reported that the men were among scores of patrons at an illegal party about 8:45 p.m. when a motorcycle with 2 men aboard drove up. The pillion alighted, pulled a firearm from his waistband and opened fire indiscriminately. The 6 men received bullet wounds to their hands and feet. The police have expanded their search for the occupants of the deregistered twin-engine plane which crash-landed near White Sands Beach in Rocky Point, Clarendon on Saturday. The Clarendon police conducted a number of operations on Sunday. Several checks were also made at nearby hospitals. However, head of the division, Senior Superintendent Glenford Miller, told our news centre that the search was unsuccessful.
My operations officer, SP Christopher Phillips, and a team would have carried out several operations in the southern section of Clarendon in search of person or persons who should have been on the aircraft which was crashed in Rocky Point. Based upon the intelligence that we would have received that they were at some of the homes of some persons who would have resided in the area, we would have actually raided these out with the proper warrants and all, but they were not seen.
SSP Miller says the operations will continue. In the meantime, a team from the Jamaica Civil Aviation Authority was sent to the crash site yesterday. In an update to our news centre, Director General of the authority, Nari Williamson, said the team was assigned to collect evidence.
Technical information from the aircraft and also to take some photographic evidence, which we did. And so the team collected that and has left and returned to Kingston. We are in dialogue with the Mexican Civil Aviation Authority. As I said earlier, the aircraft did bear Mexican registration information, so we're in dialogue with them and providing them with information as well. So, we will, as I said, try to get as much information in terms of this aircraft and its operation.
And in news just in from a Ministry of Health press conference that is now underway, on the heels of a spike in COVID-19 cases in Manchester, Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton has announced tighter curfew measures for the parish starting tonight. Dr. Tufton, who says the curfew measures will remain in effect in Manchester until February 8. Now, the curfew hours will be between 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. daily.
Manchester has seen a rapid increase in cases, with 125 new cases between January 10th and 24. In addition, the cases are spread across the parish, with over 30 communities affected. There is non-compliance to infection prevention and control measures, as many persons are not wearing masks, and there is more crowding and gatherings that are observed on the ground by the surveillance team.
No, Dr. Tufton added that the parish accounts for some 11% of all confirmed COVID-19 cases in the last 2 weeks.
And presently, 5.3% of the total confirmed cases ever for the country are in that parish. The positivity rate for the parish has been the highest in the last 2 weeks, which over that period has been approximately 28% or 27.8%.
Meanwhile, the latest COVID-19 data from the Ministry of Health shows that another 133 cases were recorded on Sunday. This has pushed the total number of confirmed cases to 15,012. A 5-month-old child is among the latest to test positive for the respiratory illness. Kingston and St. Andrew recorded most of the new cases, followed by Clarendon and St. Catherine. Meanwhile, 2 more persons have died from the illness. The country's COVID-19 death toll is now 338. 101 persons are hospitalized with the virus. 12 are critically ill. And it's now time for a break here on the Midday News, but please stay with us. We'll have much more when we return. Welcome back, and we're continuing the news. Medical Officer of Health for St. Anne, Dr. Tamika Henry, is reiterating that the vaccines on the market to treat COVID-19 patients are safe and that there's nothing to fear. Dr. Henry says 62 vaccines are currently in clinical development. She says Jamaica has an interest in a number of them. However, persons continue to express fear because of claims that the vaccines can be incorporated in one's DNA. Dr. Henry said that is not true.
There are a number of vaccines that we're interested in. There's one particularly that the ministry was interested in. It's the messenger RNA vaccine. Persons are wondering if this vaccine will be incorporated into our DNA and what is going to happen. mRNA is a single-stranded entity, a single-strand molecule. It does not go into the nucleus of our cells, which is where the DNA is located. All right, so it cannot become incorporated with the DNA. It stays in an area outside that we call the cytoplasm.
In addition, Dr. Henry said the vaccine does not change the DNA structure. She said the vaccine usually tells the cells of the body to produce protein.
That protein is actually the spike protein that is normally on the surface of the coronavirus 19, the SARS-CoV-2 virus. When our body recognizes those proteins, the body is going to start to make antibodies against those proteins. And so if at all we get infected or we get infected with COVID-19, the body will recognize it and would already have started to build our immunity to it. And so it is anticipated that we will not get as sick as we could have gotten because we had gotten the vaccine.
Education Minister Favour Williams is criticizing some principals for asking parents to sign a waiver to indemnify their institutions should students contract the COVID-19 virus while on the school compound. The move has since sparked concerns across the education sector.
If there is even going to be some kind of indemnity form, then it would have to be standard across the system. Obviously, it couldn't be that individual schools are designing their own instruments. And so it's a relevant matter, but it's a matter that the Ministry of Education would have to rule on. And in the case that you mentioned, I know that there is a meeting scheduled for the ministry to meet with that particular school to have that matter ironed up.
There's no need to be doing that if it is that the ministry has the authority to say schools are open. We work for the Ministry of Education, and if there's anybody who needs to ask for indemnity, it's the Ministry of Education. That's not a principal's responsibility.
To other news now, the Portland Police are reporting a decline in major crimes. Head of the Portland Police Division, Superintendent Dwayne Wellington, made the revelation during an interview with our news center recently. Superintendent Wellington says the police have increased their presence across the parish. He also provided an update on some of the recent incidents.
In terms of an update on the Mansion Hill incident where a motor vehicle was damaged, the person who did the damage to the motor vehicle, service vehicle, he has been arrested and he is scheduled to go to court sometime next month. In terms of the shooting last weekend, we are still at an initial stage in terms of investigation, and we are continuing to follow all the leads that we have been provided with.
Superintendent Wellington also gave details on compliance with the Disaster Risk Management Act in the parish.
Well, for the parish, we are good in terms of COVID, and we have at least 95% compliance in terms of persons who are complying with the COVID restrictions. So we are happy for that, and we thank the citizens for that support and partnership in doing so.
Now, he was speaking last week after a dedicatory service of the new Portland Divisional Headquarters. The Jamaica Chamber of Commerce, JCC, says the government should focus on stimulating the economy and resist implementing new tax measures in the upcoming financial year. Sandy Williams has the details.
Last week, the opposition spokesman on finance, Julian Robinson, echoed calls for a new stimulus package to help businesses struggling to deal with the fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic. But at last Thursday's sitting of the Public Administration and Appropriations Committee, Financial Secretary Darlene Morrison said there is no allocation in the third supplementary estimates to finance another stimulus. In responding to the call last week on the morning agenda on Power 106, Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark said it was inappropriate to speak definitive on the matter.
We came out with the CARE program. We didn't come out with that CARE program having been urged by anybody or having been asked by anybody to do so. We saw what was happening and we responded, proactively. The budget will be tabled in a very short time, and it would be inappropriate at this point to speak too definitively about it because we're still in the process of putting everything together. So I don't want to, what is happening there, there's a bit of politics jumping the gun, in terms of the budget debate and so on. And I don't want to follow suit.
But the Jamaica Chamber of Commerce, JCC, is not satisfied with the finance minister's response. President of the JCC, Lloyd Distant, says the government should be focused on stimulating the economy, which has been hard hit by the COVID-19 pandemic.
So one of the things that we see is that most governments are taking steps to stimulate economic activity, increasing government spending and thinking medium to long term. So what we need to do is encourage investment in innovation. That's a long-term strategy. Improving our production and competitiveness. And those are the things that we need to be looking at as a country.
In the meantime, Mr. Distant says the government should resist increasing taxes in the upcoming financial year. Dr. Clark has been tight-lipped on whether there will be a new tax package. Mr. Distant explains that since the country is still grappling with the COVID-19 pandemic, a reduction in taxes would be more fitting.
Our position has continued to be driving compliance and broadening the tax base. Having come through COVID, the unemployment increased, I think by about 3.5% in the past 12 months. And you have the reduced incomes coming in. This really isn't the time to increase taxes. In fact, we probably should be looking at a reduction in taxes more than anything else.
Sandy Williams, TVJ.
In news overseas now, President Joe Biden's proposal to boost the U.S. economy and efforts to fight the COVID-19 pandemic is facing some Republican opposition. More from the CNN.
President Joe Biden says the American Rescue Plan is a top legislative priority. On Sunday, a top White House economic official discussed the $1.9 trillion package with a bipartisan group of senators, a source on the call tells CNN.
I think considerable progress came out of that in terms of building consensus for this plan.
While Biden is pushing for Republican and Democratic lawmakers to work toward an agreement, there's some criticism from the GOP.
We need to understand where the money is going. Are these to individuals or to entities that really need the help? How has the first $900 billion we just passed a couple of weeks ago, how has that been distributed?
Republican Senator Susan Collins of Maine tells CNN more funds are needed for vaccine distribution, but adds the additional stimulus checks that the president is proposing are not well targeted. If both sides can't come to terms, Senator Bernie Sanders says the Democrats may use reconciliation, a rare and controversial tactic that could push much of the relief package through.
To news and sports now, Bangladesh have swept the West Indies 3-0 in their one-day international series after recording a 120-run victory in the third ODI in Chattogram on Monday. Batting first, Bangladesh posted 297 for 6 off their 50 overs. Tamim Iqbal, Mushfiqur Rahim and Mahmudullah top scored with 64 runs each. Alzari Joseph and Raymond Reefer led the way with 2 wickets each for the Windies. In reply, the Caribbean side were bowled out for 177 inside 45 overs. Jamaican Rovman Powell top scored with 47, while another Jamaican, Nkrumah Bonner, added 31. Mohamed Saifuddin took 3 for 51 for the home side. The first of 2 test matches bowls off on February 3. And that's the Midday News. I'm Giovanni Dennis. Join us at 7 for Primetime News. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, have a good afternoon.